Let's talk about Malva as well as the storylines for the next Game Freak games. Pokemon! 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 Hello everyone, I'm Dustin Benzel and welcome to another Pokemon discussion. Today, this particular video, we're going to discuss the Malva Theory. This was by, I believe, Destar 100, I believe? Something of that nature. I'm sorry if I'm not saying it properly. I have no context of how to pronounce it properly. So anyway, basically, the theory states that Malva, there's basically a civil war, basically, kind of like what I said in my other video. There's like a civil dispute between the Kalos region, possibly. Malva would be the villain. The main villain should be like Lysander. Broadcasting skills to manipulate both sides into killing each other. Her Pokemon would be Volcanion. Zygarde and this new Pokemon would be awakened. So this would be after Lysander's defeat, and so this would definitely be like sequels or something, I guess, or it'd be a sequel of some sort. So yeah, maybe like X2, Y2, or Z2, Z2, I don't know. So then it says Zygarde teams up with new protagonists with Cal and Serena, their respective legendary Xerneas or Evital, depending on which version. Set out to restore peace. People to get more hurt about the connection with Hitler and Eva Braun. Malva was in a relationship with Lysander. Uses Delete 4 to manipulate trainers. Kalos region for tearing her family apart. That would actually be interesting if I can. Alright, yeah, sorry. But that's kind of basically what it is. Malva is the villain, the main villain of the next Pokemon games, and there is some possibility that this could happen. Let me just read as all the quotes that Malva has real quick that I copy. This isn't all of the quotes she says, but these are the most important quotes. At least one sentence or the whole thing. This is why I chose these. Do your best, because if you can't impress us with your real strength, you'll never get to battle her, which is talking about Diantha, because she was the champion. But it should be a walk in the park for you, right? The hero heroine who destroyed big bad Team Flare. Oh, I can't tell you how happy I am to meet you again. I feel like my heart might just burst into flames. I'm burning up with my hatred for you, Runt. Ooh, you wicked little trainer, you're just too much, you know. You're so amusing that I just want to burn you up where you stand. But I'll let you live. After all, if you want your dreams to come true, you have to be strong enough to force them to happen. Team Flare wasn't strong enough to do that, but I can see you are. Ooh, you wicked little trainer, I will definitely remember this battle. I am delighted, yes, delighted that I could squash you beneath my heel. That's if you lose to her in the battle chateau. Took you long enough, player. It may happen that I have need of your services, but I expect you to keep in mind how valuable my time is. Oh, never mind. Just fight me. I can't possibly have a reasonable discussion when my emotions are so inflamed. Yes, I'm burning up with rage. No, you're only adding fuel to the fire, so yes or no. Upon being defeated. Humph. After being defeated. Enough for now. I brought you here for a reason. The first issue is the identity of the trainer called Essentia. In truth, she is simply a young girl called Emma, wearing a piece of special technology dubbed the expansion suit. The expansion suit was created by Dr. Xerosic. I can see that name means something to you. You remember him, I take it. One of Team Flare's scientists, the main scientist that was a kind of a douche. See, in the XY games originally, Lysander said if you beat Xerosic, or if you chose properly, then he would like basically say, no, we'll just not activate the weapon. But Zerosik, on the other hand, decided to say screw it and just push the button regardless of what you pressed. This brings me to my request, young man lady. Make sure Zerosik disappears. I don't care how. If you need a reason, call it honor among thieves. Even we in Team Flare had our sense of pride. You may disagree with what we were doing, what we thought right. But we were doing what we thought right. I won't let him sully our honor now. Yeah, like I said, they did have pride. They had honor. Zerosik completely went against them and totally was basically... He was in it for his own reasons, basically. The hero of Kalos would hardly wish for that girl Emma to keep staining her hands with these crimes as Essentia. If you want to help the girl, you need to put a stop to Zerosik, and that I can help you with. If we leave now, we should find him at Lysander Cafe. Don't dawdle. Be ready to face death if you go. Prepare well if you want a shot at surviving. And then when you go to the cafe, she says, you'll need to take that elevator. I'll enter the special password on this panel here. And voila! Now you have access to the secret floor of Lysander Labs. You should find Zerosik and his Essentia there. The rest I leave to you. The secret floor has the same layout as this one. You defeated Team Flare once, right? And this should be a piece of cake. Oh, and one last thing. Tell that partner of yours, which is Looker. Tell that infuriating man, yes, tell him I fulfilled my end of the bargain, and he should keep in mind that what will happen to him if he doesn't do the same. Good day. Now, these are important because it at least shows that Malva is hot-headed. I guess that would be relating to her specialty, which is fire type. She has like Talonflame and Houndoom and stuff. So it does make a little bit of sense that Malva might indeed be the next villain, the next big antagonist for the third games. Assuming, of course, that Game Freak isn't cheap and basically just makes this a third version where they just add Zygarde into it. Maybe the first part will be about Xerneas and Eviltal, and then Malva will take over as leader or something of that nature. I guess that could happen. But yeah, basically she's very angry, she's upset, she doesn't like anything, she's really, I don't know why she's upset, but I guess as Dustar100 says, it would probably make sense that she does resent the Kalos region in some fashion or another, but I'm not entirely sure on the whole Civil War thing. I don't think it's going to be Kalos versus Kalos. I think what's more likely going to happen is that Malva, if she's going to be the main antagonist for the next games, I feel like she's just going to just continue on with whatever is going on with Team Flare. She's going to take over after Lysander's defeat. Maybe that will actually happen. Maybe there will be like a beginning story where you eventually defeat Team Flare, you like capture Xerneas or Eviltal or something. Or maybe Callum and Serena will be appearing. Maybe the third games will introduce different player characters or something. Maybe they'll introduce another set of characters, so maybe it is a sequel of some sort. Or it could just be you either get Xerneas or Eviltal, or even both, or maybe not at all. Maybe this will be after the fact, but after you defeat Lysander and you defeat him, then it starts with the Zygarde plot with Malva pulling all the stops and trying to make it so that she has full control over whatever she's like doing what Lysander failed to do. Now, as for Volcanion, I'm not sure because it's an event legendary, and I can't imagine how it would make any sense. I mean, it's still possible, but I feel like they're going to keep Volcanion a event Pokemon, and I'm just not sure it makes any sense for Volcanion to be owned by Malva, and then the player can get another Volcanion. So at best, we can only hope for that after Malva is done with Volcanion, or Malva is taken down, Volcanion is like released into the wild. and then ends up somewhere else or something. Or maybe Malva doesn't use Volcanion in the last battle, and Volcanion is actually in a secret lab, and you need to get an event item to actually go get Volcanion. But the thing is, Volcanion has always been rumored to be in those power plant places that you couldn't go in the original XY. You could go into the Kalos power plant, or the basic one. I believe there's one part where you can go into, and I think you needed to stop Team Flare you had to stop Team Flare, so then Lumio City can get its blackout over with or whatever. I think that may have been the case. So something similar to that already happened in the anime. But there were parts that you could go to, but you actually couldn't go to. I mean, it basically said, hey, it seemed like we could go to that building over there, but it seems like we have an obstacle here, so there wasn't any programming, and it was always rumored that that's where you would find Volcanion. So I'm not really sure Malva leaving Volcanion there after whatever. I don't know if it would make any sense. I could see Volcanion being used and then Volcanion escaping. I can see that, like in my suggestion for the movies, I can see that. But I don't think Volcanion is going to be a Pokemon that Malva is going to use. I think she's going to use her own Pokemon that she currently has, or any other fire Pokemon. I don't know if she's going to quite use Volcanion in this particular aspect. But I definitely see how she could indeed be the main antagonist for the next Game Freak games if they are relating to Kalos. I don't know if we're going to get sequels and we're going to get 2 of them, like Best Wishes or Black 2, White 2. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I definitely expect I could see Malva being the main villain, assuming, of course, they don't want to just let Lysander be the villain again. So, but I do think that Malva will definitely take a bigger role in the next game, where she's going to be a lot more antagonistic. I think she's going to fall out of favor out of the Elite Four, possibly. She's going to be beaten, or she's going to be found out, and she's going to be dismissed from the Elite Four. Maybe if this were sequels, then maybe Callum or Serena would have told someone that Malva was definitely part of the Elite Four, or part of Team Flare, so they wanted to make sure that no villains were part of the Elite Four. Now, I know that in the manga, that the first generation, maybe the second generation, the Elite Four were actually bad. I think Lance was bad, Karen was bad, or not, well, not Karen, but like Lorelai and Agatha and Bruno. I think they were villains, basically. But I feel like they want to keep some sort of good balance with the Elite Four. The strongest trainers of the region should be relatively good, and they should protect the region. Granted, Diantha could just show up and just basically tell the Elite Four to go off and die, basically, I guess. Because Diantha is more powerful than they are, so... And Diantha is definitely not. But I do think that Diantha is possibly going to have more of a bigger role, because her role was very minuscule in XY. I mean, you saw her a little bit. She was a movie theater. I think she had a little bit to do with Team Flare, not as much as one would like or whatever. And then basically, then the next time you saw her, she was like the champion of the Elite Four. I actually figured out it was Diantha without any clues. I may have heard someone say, you'll never get to battle her, and then I may have thought it, but I don't know. But I actually was wondering who the champion was and who made the most sense, and I'm like, oh, of course, it's got to be Diantha, and it actually turned out to be Diantha, because Diantha was the only one it could have been, because it was the only random trainer that we saw that seemed like it would be the case. The only thing that would have thrown off that theory, of course, was Diantha is also a movie star, basically. But yeah, I do see a lot of this theory could be possibly true, that Malva will definitely take over Team Flare at some particular point and be the main antagonist for the next games, but there are some things that I do disagree with it. Like, I don't think it's going to be a civil war necessarily, because I'm not really sure that would make any sense right now, unless Malva were to specifically start the civil war. But unless, of course, this is like Generation 6.5 and there's another region that we don't know about. But the problem is, I think it contradicts the Great War that happened like thousands of years ago, when the weapon that Lysander was trying to use was used last, basically. I don't think that actually caused a rift between a big region and it like split in half. So I just don't think that this is actually going to be the case, that it's going to be a civil war. I think it's just going to be the Kalos region. But I will get into possible storylines for other future generations of Pokemon after I completely finish it. So yeah, I do see this as a potential possibility, at least a lot of this. I see that she's going to be the main villain of the next games. I could see that as a possibility, or having a bigger role. Maybe even being kicked out of the Elite Four because of Team Flare and just being a very powerful trainer. Lysander, of course, would be a little bit stronger if he has the main role in the next games. I'm not really sure what the case is going to be, but yeah. Yeah. And like I said in the quotes, it definitely seems to hint that Malva is definitely hates the player, and that she would want to get her revenge and want to keep going, and she does have that fiery, angry rage passion that she seems like she could easily become a main antagonist at some point, or even second command. The only thing that's throwing me off on this particular theory, however, is her role as the holocaster person. At least I think that's who it is. Yeah, so she definitely is the holocast. I looked, and there's definitely a holocast. So she's the only thing that is theory is the holocast, and it just seems like she kind of seems like a secretary right now in Team Flare. I mean, she definitely has that fiery, angry rage to like basically be a leader, but the leaders seem to be just Lysander, Xerosic, and the other four scientists like Mabel and stuff or whatever. So maybe it's possible. I know I've heard somewhere that a secretary would be basically third in command. Basically, we have the head honcho, which would be Lysander. We have basically the executive director, which would probably be the equivalent of Xerosic. So maybe being the holocaster means that Malva was third in command. But really, we really didn't see her all that much at all, except in the holocaster. So that's kind of the only reason why I doubt this is going to be the case. But I guess we'll see what happens. So yeah, that covers that. I feel like this could be a strong possibility, just not it completely. I think they're going to like work it a little bit differently than what theory states. But yeah, I do feel like this has a strong possibility of happening. So yeah, it's a pretty good theory. I feel like it could happen with all the little hints that Malva is angry all the time, wants to hurt people, and just really is so angry. It's not like other fire type trainers where they just have a fiery passion for battling and doing what they do. It seems that Malva's fire type relation is due to her rage. So I feel like they may want to expand on that and definitely explain why she's angry all the time. Maybe something traumatic happened. I guess we'll have to see. Anyway, this next part of the video is going to be about storylines and future aspects of the games. Someone also mentioned that what I would like to see in terms of features and storylines that I'd like to see in future Pokemon games. So basically maybe the next Game Freak games or the next generation, whatever they may be. If the next Game Freak games are indeed third game versions, then I really would like to see an expansion of the original games, add a lot more story, and add it so it's about Xerneas and Eviltal at first, and then Zygarde, You know, and I'm really liking the whole Malva being the main antagonist at one point in the game, so that would be interesting to see. Malva would, of course, not be part of the Elite Four. Granted, Team Rocket, or Giovanni, was the leader of Team Rocket, and he was also the 8th gym leader, but it was also a secret. If you didn't know, it was a secret. I think all of the other basic gym leaders have been revealed. Basically, I think, let's see, I think Claire was revealed before that she was a gym leader in some fashion or another. I think Iris and Drayden were revealed to be their respective gym leaders at some particular point. I think even in the sequels we knew about, I think it was Marlon was the gym leader. I think we already knew about Marlon before, and he was the last gym leader before we knew about this. Giovanni, as far as I'm aware, is the only gym leader that we did not know about previously. The only other thing I think of is Wallace and Juan, but I'm pretty sure that's not the case because I think we knew about Wallace before. Maybe not within the games, but we actually knew that Wallace was definitely the last gym leader, I believe, and we were like leading up to it, and then Emerald changed it to Juan, basically. But I think Giovanni was the only gym leader that ever had a mysterious aspect on it, and that was because, well, not only did we have no idea who the 8th gym leader was, it was also because Giovanni was also the leader of Team Rocket, and we definitely knew about this before. We actually battled Giovanni before, and we actually beat him, and he always was like weirded out that we were actually powerful enough to beat him, and then it was supposed to end up being a surprise that Team Rocket, or Giovanni, was the leader of Team Rocket and also the final gym leader. And I think that's why they kept it a mystery, because of the relations. All the other 8th gym leaders were revealed because they didn't have a major role within the actual games, basically. Actually, if I remember correctly, Drayden actually did appear in the sequels as a gym leader, but he was the 7th gym leader. I think Marlon was the final gym leader. So yeah, we had that aspect of everything. So, but the problem is, I just don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird when you actually go through the XY games and you run into Malva or whatever. It's only at the Elite Four. I mean, you would kind of maybe remember her being in the Holocaster, but you don't really think of anything. And then she says she's a part of Team Flare, and you're like, wait a minute, how are you a part of Team Flare? Of course, that's because Team Flare, Lysander Corp, or whatever his company is called, is the inventor of the Holocaster. They're responsible for the Holocaster, so that would explain why Malva would be responsible for it. But I guess we didn't know the relation between the Elite Four and Malva. So I definitely would like to see something like that where Malva has an expanded role within the games and she does this and that. And basically it revolves around Zygarde and stuff. Lysander can do Xerneas and Yveltal, and then we can just switch over to Zygarde. You know, the more I think about it, I think Zygarde is just a little bit too different between Yveltal and Xerneas. Xerneas is about giving life, and Yveltal is about taking away life, but Zygarde is about keeping a balance within the ecosystem. So I just don't know if we're going to get Yveltal and Xerneas fighting, causing mass destruction and mass imbalance, that Zygarde has to get involved. I'm not really sure. I especially don't see that in the movies. Maybe in the games I could see something like that, but not in the movie. Movie, I think it's just going to be Volcanion, going to be somehow related to the ecosystem being destroyed, because it would make sense for that Pokemon to be responsible for that particular aspect. As for 7th generation possibility, I would really like my Civil War thing to happen. I would really like it if there was this massive region that was split in two, and depending on which version you had, determined on what part of the region you started off, and they would have their own starters, they would have their own particular Pokemon version exclusive, actual new Pokemon. They'd have their own gym battles. They would share an Elite Four, though. That would be the only thing that they share. and then like at like halfway or after you beat the 8th gym leader, you end up getting tossed to the other region. Like I've already said, I would really like to see something like this. As for other storylines, I'm not really sure. Team Rocket was basically the mafia or the mob or some kind of gang. Basically, they wanted to take over the world that way with a Pokemon. Third generations, we got like eco-terrorists with Team Magma and Team Aqua. They wanted the world to change what they felt should make sense. And then fourth generation, we have Team Galactic, and basically Team Galactic was basically a universal terrorist, I guess you could say, a global universal terrorist, because Cyrus basically wanted to create his own universe, and that actually happened in the anime where he actually entered his own universe, and then the universe closed in on itself. So that's cut off. Fifth gen was basically Pokemon PETA. No, I'm just kidding. Basically, Pokemon PETA were like animal terrorists, I guess you could say. Activists, severe extremist animal activists, in the way that they wanted to release all the Pokemon, but basically I can't exactly say that's entirely what Team Plasma was about, because Geetus, Lord Geetus, or however you want to pronounce it, was actually wanting to take over the whole entire world, and he wanted to be the only one with Pokemon. So basically he wanted to be it was basically a tyrannical type of place. He used someone who can communicate with Pokemon, and then he wanted to use that so he can only have all the Pokemon, and then people wouldn't be able to defend. So it's basically a tyranny type thing. As for Team Flare, on the other hand, they're kind of like I don't know if fascist is the right word, or racist, or prejudice. I don't know if those are the quite qualifiers of what I'd go with Team Flare. But they wanted to restart everything. They wanted to they wanted to destroy everything they thought was offensive to them. So they're definitely kind of racist, I guess, in a way. Yeah, they kind of are kind of like Nazis, I guess, in a similar way, like the Malva Theory. They're kind of like that because they wanted to destroy everything that they didn't agree with and wanted to start over. They seemed like they were trying to do something for the better. I think if I'm not mistaken, Team Flare they were kind of like Team Plasma a little bit, in that they thought that Pokemon were getting too hurt or something, and this was a result of humans. And I think what Team Flare wanted was basically what Team Flare wanted was to destroy all humans, but keep the Pokemon and themselves behind. I think what was actually possible was that they wanted to destroy all humans and let the Pokemon be in a way. So basically, I think Team Flare is an even more extreme version of Team Plasma in terms of animal activism. As for 7th generation and possibly on, I don't actually know. The only thing that I can think of is we probably need something similar to a James Bond type villain, I guess you could say, where it revolves around science. We need an actual evil scientist being the leader of this group, and knows a lot about science and stuff. So something like Corliss or something, but like a main antagonist. And he just uses science to manipulate the Pokemon and the world and the humans. Like, maybe there will be like points where you will capture these weird Pokemon. They'll like have this weird haze about them, and then when you capture them, they'll seem like they'll seem like regular Pokemon, but your character will know definitely that there's something wrong with these Pokemon, but you don't know why. And then after you get to a particular point, suddenly this thing happens, and your Pokemon releases itself and ends up being part of the evil organization, and you realize that these Pokemon were off because they were like implanted with a chip or some sort of biomechanism or something. So I definitely would like to see something like that, where it's definitely technologically based. Now I know 5th gen tried to do this with technology versus nature, but they didn't exactly do it very well. I think the only differences between technology versus nature they did was certain towns and cities would reflect on whether or not something should have been more technologically advanced or more nature based or whatever. So if they were more against technology, they would have like wood trees and stuff. If they were more for technology, they would have like technology based stuff or whatever. But definitely, I see something like heavily technologically advanced. I expect there to be a particular Pokemon that's like Genesect, but it's like one of the cover legendaries. Or maybe they're both cover legendaries, and one is maybe maybe it'll be like the original legendary, and then the other legendary will be like the more technologically advanced version of it or whatever, like after modifications of the next team. Sort of like Genesect, because we still don't know what Genesect used to look like, because Genesect definitely was not always a steel type, I believe, because Genesect was only that way because of Team Plasma. And then basically In found out about this and was upset that they were creating abominations with Pokemon. So, yeah. But I guess that's because Getus actually wanted this or whatever. So, yeah. Now, one person said that they should probably remove gyms because they're getting repetitive, boring, and easy. And the thing is, I actually have to strongly disagree in that particular instance. Because here's the thing. Gyms are a part of the core Pokemon series. That's what they are. If you want a different game that has without gyms, you're going to have to deal with XD, Gale of Darkness, or Coliseum, or the Pokemon Ranger games, or anything else. But a main Game Freak series always has to have gyms because they're a core part of the series. There needs to be gyms. There needs to be a Pokemon League with the Elite Four and the champion. It may be boring, but there's nothing else they can do. Pokemon is about battling with other Pokemon, and the only way to convey this with Pokemon battles is by having a gym quest and an Elite Four and champion. If you take out the gyms, then there's really nothing to do, and you're forced to be stuck with battling random trainers randomly, or possibly going into specialized battle facilities like the Battle Frontier, basically, or you're just left with dealing with the evil organization of that other team. The problem, of course, is that the gyms are there for an important reason. Not only do the badges make sure that you can actually have any Pokemon you want, regardless if it's traded, but they actually show you your progress within the games. I don't know if it would be able to do this, and I just don't think there's any substitute that they can make up. A Battle Frontier for a gym quest and then having like an Elite Four and Kalos region wouldn't make any sense. So yeah, I can understand that gym battles are repetitive and boring and easy, but then you have to look at the other core aspects of Pokemon, and you have to think, well, evolutions and learning new moves and the turn-based battling stuff, that's also basically the same thing. It's repetitive and technically boring, I guess. The only difference is that you're like new Pokemon and new moves and stuff, but then again, we're dealing with new gym leaders and new things. So I don't think they're going to get rid of gyms. I just don't think that makes any sense to me. Maybe Game Freak at some point might create a game where there are no gyms, but there's heavy battling. Maybe they can create a handheld version of XD, Gale of Darkness, or Coliseum, but basically that's kind of it. And those games were very limited, though. I have to admit, for being console games, they were very limited. They had a story and it was fine, but there just wasn't a lot of battles in there. I mean, well, everything was a battle because that's the way that the thing happened. If you talk to anyone with a Pokemon, regardless, you would be able to re-battle them, basically. But they were just like so spread out and so meaningless that the only point of those Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness was just to go after the evil team. Basically, it's XD Gale of Darkness as well as Coliseum were just basically the equivalent of, like, I don't know, first generation, where where you take out all the gyms, you take out all the Elite Four, and then you just expand on the Team Rocket idea. And that's just something that I just don't see happening. I just don't see it makes any sense. I mean, I can understand gyms could be boring, and there have been people who have said that they don't want any gyms, but the problem is it is a core aspect of the Pokemon games, especially Game Freak, because they're battles and there's just nothing suitable. I mean, you could say that a Battle Frontier would be more interesting. Maybe they'd have like 8 or 10 symbols or whatever they're called. But the problem, well, yeah, they are symbols for the that's right. 5th gen or 4th gen. Yeah, 4th gen Battle Frontier had prints, like silver prints or gold prints or whatever, or black and white prints and colored prints. Basically, I'll make a correction in the in text form in case I made a mistake there. But yeah, I'm not seeing this as a big possibility that they're going to remove gyms and just give Battle Frontiers. I mean, it would be interesting to have a Battle Frontier, main Battle Frontier with different things, but the problem is we're talking single player, and I don't think single player should be as hard as multiplayer, and that's kind of what Battle Frontier was. Battle Frontier was difficult because it had multiplayer aspects of it. You couldn't rely on your Pokemon's level and your moves or whatever. You actually had to come up with a strong strategy. And that's fine. They should have a battle facility that does that. But the main series, the main storyline should not revolve around that. I shouldn't have to go into a battle and throw out a Pokemon and then I don't control it like the Battle Palace in 3rd generation, where the Pokemon did its own moves based on its personality and its characteristics, and then it battles for me and it depends on who beats who. You know, I really don't want that for the main storyline. I definitely want to be in full control. You know, I want my Pokemon to be obviously more level higher than the other gym leader or whatever, because it wouldn't make any sense for the Pokemon to be equal. It only makes sense in special facilities like the Battle Frontier, where the Pokemon would be equal with each other, because with the equal level, because that's basically the challenge of those facilities. But gym battles and the Elite Four and the Pokemon League, basically, those aren't supposed to be equal levels. You can't have your Pokemon at level 60 being reduced down to 50 because that's the highest level that some Elite Four has. That wouldn't make any logical sense in terms of first player story mode. It would only make sense in special battles, such as against a Battle Frontier, like I said. So I don't think that they're going to remove the gym battles, and I don't think they should remove the gym battles. But if they can come up with something more interesting than gym battles, but still have something where the player is in full control of, then I would be okay with that. But I just don't like the idea of badges being reduced. I can understand why someone would want the badges to be removed, because if there's no badges, Ash is not going to be able to continue unless, of course, there's an Elite Four or Pokemon League, and a Pokemon League couldn't exist without gym badges as well as gyms. They could rework it, but basically no gyms basically means no more Ash. They would have to get rid of Ash, or they would have to restructure his goals, because Ash is only interested in battling gyms and gym leaders and stuff of that nature. So anyway, I think this pretty much covers this particular video. I have to stop anyway because I have to do other things, and my glasses fell apart and I need to fix them. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this mega episode that has everything combined. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Dustin Benzel, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.